There we are. So, welcome everyone. For those of you who don't know, my name's Kim Macleod, and I am one half of the kind of production team here at Indie Authors World, and we've had the pleasure of working with this lovely man here to help him kind of put his book together, which is what we're here to celebrate, is this wonderful book. So congratulations, Ali, first of all, and on your wonderful book.
Thank you.
And it's been a joy to work alongside you to get the book out. So what we're going to do this afternoon is I've got some questions that I would like to ask Ali about some of the stuff behind the scenes in the book. If you have a question, for those of you who are watching, if you have a question, you can actually put something into the chat, and I will keep a little eye on the chat facility as well. And that way I will hopefully be able to pick up on a question. And if there's time, we're aiming just to kind of make this to around about 5 o'clock. If there is time, then we might even open up and let someone ask you a question directly. So does that all sound okay so far?
Good stuff. Let's do this.
Let's do this. So I know that I think most of the people here will actually know you already, but I wanted just to read your author bio, because this has been recorded and people might not actually know too much about you if they're catching up later. So here we have, Ali Carter is a former police officer, chef and father to 4 children. He founded Mediate UK, the nation's largest private and top-rated family mediation and amicable divorce service. He's the founder of Yaka, an app that helps connect people in real life. Now a published author, Ali is available for public speaking, can help you and your team set your life and business goals. Based in Surrey, Ali has a strong desire to help young people with their mental health. He is a support worker and volunteer for a young person's mental health charity. He's also a keen supporter of mental health charities and the England rugby team.
There we go.
There we are. So if you didn't, there might be some things in there that you didn't know, and some of it we're going to pick up on the call. So what I wanted to do now is I'm going to give a little read of the blurb on the back of the book as well, because this is what we're here to talk about today. So, greater expectations and wealth and well-being achieve both without sacrificing everything. And that, I think, is absolutely, the key thing that we really have to be kind of talking about. And it's the key theme that runs through your book. So in the blurb we have, do you feel stuck in life? Are you tired of the challenges that life gives you? Do you want to create a brighter future for you and your family? In this brutally honest and sometimes heart-wrenching book, Ali Carter takes you through his personal journey from chef to police officer to family mediator and ultimately the founder of a tech startup. Improving your life and making significant changes for the better is challenging, especially if you have complex childhood issues, react terribly to rejection, and think you can do it all by yourself, as Ali did. Now he shares with you the methods that he used to turn his business and life around. Through a series of easy-to-understand principles, Ali shows you the building blocks to make you happier, boost your financial well-being, and raise your expectations for life. So who doesn't need this book? I think that's it. It's absolutely, it's for everybody. But particularly, I think, if you're interested in developing or growing a business. It is a great read, and I think that the start of your book in particular, Ali, is very heartfelt. It's honest, it's quite raw, and you describe a particularly challenging time in your life. You share the highs and lows of your life and your business in a very honest way. And I wonder, when you sat down to write this book, did you have the intention of being so honest and opening up the wounds, if you like, that had been part of your life, or did that sort of just happen to uncover as you started to write?
Yeah, when I started writing the book, I had no idea if I was actually going to publish it. It was I took myself away for a weekend to a place called Bexhill-on-Sea, which is where we used to spend a lot of our childhood holidays. And I don't know if anyone's been to Bexhill-on-Sea recently, but I think I joked in the book, but it's like going back to 1975. It really hadn't changed a lot. So I took myself off there and I just wrote in a small Airbnb. And when I'd go for a walk by the beach, I'd go back and I'd write some more. And it was more of a therapeutic thing, just to get things in writing, get it out of my head and on paper. And then I found I quite enjoyed doing that. So I booked another 3 weekends away in various Airbnbs in the UK and abroad. And so I finished the book and I thought, well, maybe I should look at getting this published now. Maybe I think the overriding thing was maybe if it can help another person, if there is just one person it helps, it's got to be worth writing and publishing. So, yeah, I am completely and utterly outside my comfort zone with all of this, but it's I think it's probably a good thing.
And what comes across certainly is, I mean, as you've said in your author's bio, that mental health is something that you're really passionate about. So sharing your own struggles and challenges with your own mental health, that in itself, I'm sure, will help people, because, you know, the more open that we can be about the struggles that we all experience, you know, can help others to come forward and open up themselves. What sort of reaction have you had from people, you know, who might have, you know, read the book that didn't necessarily know how your mental health struggles? Have you had anything from anybody so far?
Yeah, so my fear was when I was sort of growing up and that I had all these anxieties and issues with depression, and I would hide them all because I figured that if someone knew that I was like that, then they wouldn't want to know me and associate with me. So that was my big fear. So I almost went the other extreme. I put on the bravado, the humor, and everything to sort of to cover it up, really. And of course, that isn't a particularly good way of dealing with these things. So when I did open up to friends and family and people who have read the book, it's just been a massive outpouring of kindness and love. And my heart is particularly full at the moment because of that. And my only regret, I suppose, is I wish I'd done this 30 odd years ago rather than when I'm 49 and writing it in a book.
So, but well done for doing it, because that's the thing. I think that's what we hear all the time about, you know, just talk, and there's lots of stuff on, you know, social media and things just to say to encourage people. But I think it does, like you said, it takes courage to do it, because we, you know, there's so many of us would have the same, you know, the same concerns, that, you know, how somebody would view you because of it. So I do want to really commend you on, you know, on what you've done, and how honest that you've been through this, because I think it makes your book stand out. You know, yes, there's a you know, we've got 3 parts in this book. You've got, you know, you've got your life, you've got your business experience, and then what you're sharing for other people to give them some encouragement about taking steps for their, you know, building a business for themselves. But I think that you being honest about your own life and your experiences elevates your book beyond just another, so it's just another, but not just as another business book. You know, it definitely makes a difference for that. So well done. That's a
Well, no, thank you. I wasn't going to put part 1 in the book. I was just going to focus on my own business part, and then my sort of tips and advice that I've picked up over the years for other people. But no, I'm pleased I did include it now, because yeah, it's had some positive reactions.
Yeah. And I suppose it makes perfect sense when you talk about the 6 pillars of support that you need. Having, you know, really then sharing your life story, that first part, because it helps, you know, really identify the aspects of support, you know. And you talk about you know, support for through family, friends, relationships, work, a coach or mentor in some sort of religions, but spirituality or higher purpose, those being the pillars that sort of under, or support, like you said, that whole, your life. How did you come up with those being the six that were important to you?
Yeah, so when I sort of reached rock bottom, I did a bit of a debrief afterwards, and I obviously wanted to make sure that I never reached that low point again. So I sort of thought, right, what do I need to do? And it occurred to me that a lot of things in my life at that point were were struggling, and actually, if I'd built up those pillars and made them stronger, I would have been a lot better. So we know that life is going to hit you. We know things are going to go wrong. We know that there's going to be things in life that are really going to rock you, and there's not a lot you can do to stop that from happening. What you can control is the support that you have when it does happen. So I mentioned these six pillars. Yeah, very briefly, they're your relationship. Obviously, that's a key one. Your family, your friends, your work or business. And then the final, and most people have those to some extent. Mm-hmm. The final two people tend not to have. One of those is, a coach, a mentor, whether it's a counselor, a support group, just something out there, that's something you might actually pay someone for, as opposed to friends who don't normally pay your friends to have a chat with. So that's a column that's often overlooked, but is really important in my view. And then the final one is for some people, their religion is, huge to them, and that could provide enough support to see them through. I'm not religious, but I have about as sort of spiritual as you'll get from me. Is I find that the more you put out into life, the kinder you are, the nicer you are, the more you give, the more actually then comes back to you. And the only evidence I have for that is since I've started doing it, my life has improved considerably. So that final column is one that is often overlooked, even at the lowest banal level. The more people you let out into the traffic ahead of you and smile when you're driving, eventually it comes back round. Not necessarily immediately, but it will come back round at some point.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is it's that external focus rather than a lot of the stuff. And particularly if we're at a low ebb, there's a lot of the focus can be so inside our heads and internally focused. So when we've got the coach or the mentor or the group that we can actually speak to, then that helps us kind of to develop another perspective, again different from friends that know you well, and that sense of higher purpose. I mean, there's a lot, there's been tons and tons of stuff. I could talk to you for a long time about that today, but we won't, because it's an area that's been very close to kind of my experiences. And my journey before this was I definitely run happiness clubs and run positive psychology and looked at the whole, what makes someone kind of generally feel happier in life. And so your six pillars are definitely sort of a core foundation that come up often. So hopefully we might even encourage somebody to kind of go off and look at the little life analysis, even if they're not interested in a business.
Well, the tip is to build up your pillars now, rather than when life is shaking you. You make sure that, call that friend, call that person, speak to that family member, because they really can help.
Yeah. And do you find now, even when that do you recognize if something's more out of whack, if there's one element of that of it's kind of not quite as going as well in your life? Do you start to see that now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if I'm struggling with anything, or I find myself on a downward spiral, I'm immediately looking to build up those pillars, and I let people know, I let friends know. I'll get some counseling if I need it. I'll speak to my coach or mentor, if it's a business issue. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is that it's a real working live kind of model. It's not something that you just do once, tick, here you are, I've got it, it's done. It's something really to kind of come back to and work through. So
Yeah, 100%.
excellent. Yeah. You've also given us quite a rundown of your relationships in the book. You talk about, sharing stuff about your life, sort of family, friends, and again, the sort of vulnerability, comes through in what you're sharing. And you've reflected back on sort of moments and people who've maybe shaped your life, because you've shared quite a lot. So there's no spoilers. I'm not telling them the detail about this. You're going to have to read the book to find out the detail. But you have shared about, pivotal points and people that came in and out of your life that might have had, have had an impact. One relationship that really kind of stood out for me was the relationship with your father. And you've been honest in there about how, difficult you even saw that as a young child, and the difference between how your father treated your siblings to how he treated you. And I wonder if you are able to talk any more around how that actually has maybe then helped shape your life, in terms of, you're now, you said, you're now a proud father of children of your own, and if that was something that you were just acutely aware of, about how you wanted to then show up as a father in your children's life.
Yeah, I think, without giving too many spoilers away for the book, I think what I found, and look, I've worked in the police. I've worked with families where children are assaulted, some horrific cases. So I'm not saying my childhood in a very middle class family, raised up in a nice area of Surrey, was awful. But what I found, when you're growing up, your brain's growing, and what I found impacted was that my father treated my brother and sister, and I know every sibling thinks their mum and dad treats them differently, but it was, it was very, very obvious. There was a disconnect there. And because he was so loving and kind to my brother and sister, and treated me so differently, I think that's what I found difficult, and that very much sort of shaped perhaps a lot of my anxieties as I grew up. So yes, it was very difficult. I think the main thing that I've taken from it is we are 100% honest with our children about everything. And there wasn't a lot of honesty growing up. And so we've gone to the other extreme. We're probably too open and honest with them. My older two have read the book and heard all my stories. But I love that. I love the fact that they come to me about anything and I can talk to them about anything. And I think that's probably the better end of the spectrum to be at.
Yeah. So you now realise, of course, if if every time you're going to chastise them about anything they're going to get up to, they're just going to kind of hold a page open with this book and say, but look.
Oh yes, they've got a lot of mud to throw at me.
But again, I think I value the honesty that you've shared, about that, and going into that sort of reflective piece of kind of looking back on your life and saying, okay, yep, here's where lots of different things came from, and keeping that, because there's funny, there's definitely, it's quite funny at times as well, reading some of the antics, and certainly your love of rugby and the rugby club. Boys certainly, knew how to party and enjoy themselves too. So it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, for anyone at the rugby club, don't worry, I haven't mentioned any of the most of the stories. I couldn't remember them, to be honest. But, yeah,
the ones that were too bad, probably, yeah, you couldn't get there. So I want to move on now to you've shared clearly in here about finding love with Amber and with your children. And I wonder then if you could talk a little bit about how pivotal that was in your decision then to leave a secure, you know, job in the police force that, whilst, you know, could have been a job for life, you know, with a good pension at the end, albeit, you know, a stressful one. How, you know, having your family now in your life, how was that such a pivotal part that made you really go, I want to leave this and look at having a business of my own?
Yeah, I think the two main things really were Amber was so supportive of every single decision I've made, both good and bad, with regards to business. So I think when I first met Amber, she said she was just happy to find someone who had a job, and then within a few weeks of being together, I let her know that actually I wanted to leave the police and set up my own business. And rather than be horrified, she was fully supportive of that decision, even though obviously it would provide a lot of uncertainty in her life. I think the other aspect was all of a sudden at that time we had 3 children, and we would turn out to have another child as well. And we wanted to buy a house. We couldn't afford to buy a house in Surrey. So I needed to try and work out a way to do that. I was never going to be able to afford to do that as a police officer. So yeah, I won't ruin the story, but we still haven't afforded to buy a house in Surrey. But yeah, fingers crossed, I will eventually get that house for Amber.
But I think for me it was interesting. It's the where our motivation comes from suddenly to make those life shifts, because I've spoken to to lots of sort of business friends that I have, and I think back to when I left my cozy HR career that I had, it's 18 years ago, and my husband left his equally could have been there for a long time IT job, and kind of we stepped out to set up our businesses. So there's either a kind of pivotal moment where everybody goes, oh my goodness, I can't cope with this anymore, and it's almost throw that out and ditch and go, right, okay, we'll start a business. Or by just having the support and that dream is the pull then that comes from we want to achieve something, something else. And I could probably say that you had probably a bit of both then, because the job that you were doing as a police officer at that time, how was that as a kind of day-to-day existence when you were working through a lot of the kind of challenges and within the police?
Yeah, so I mean, I spent most of my time in the police working with victims of serious sexual assault. So that was difficult. I went on to be one of the few officers who was qualified to interview particularly young children under 5. And that was a really tough existence, but also highly rewarding. So you can't do that for too long. So I went back onto the beat. I was the safer neighbourhood police officer at Twickenham, which was a fantastic job because I got to watch all the home rugby matches. But I'd lost my love for the job because I wasn't doing what I loved. And it turns out doing what I love is doing what I'm doing at the moment. I just didn't know that at the time. So if you're not doing what you love, eventually you'll get tired and stressed with it. So I was very much pushed then, but also obviously Amber's support was key in allowing me to do that.
Yeah. So as I said, those pillars again have been able to support you in life, were then able to support you taking that next step in terms of, right, okay, that's it, we're going to open up and we're going to start a business. And Twickenham was the kind of first connection then, with certainly with the cafe, because you then kind of start to talk about your business exploits. And so was that as you look back now, I suppose I always think about, there's no such thing as failure, there is only feedback. But sometimes the feedback can be quite challenging and hard to take too. Do you have any regrets, I suppose? Here's the thing, because lots of people kind of are scared to maybe make a decision because they don't want to, it not to work out. So are there any regrets and starting that cafe and kind of how that worked out?
I don't think I can regret it because it was sort of an MBA in business, if you like, in 9 months. So yeah, it was highly stressful. I think 95% of turnover was on match days, so you had to get that right. I joke in the book that having been a police officer for 9 years, constantly being asked, "Can you smell bacon?" I actually, on leaving the police, did stink of bacon. Uh, but it provided one of the comedy highlights for me, which is Amber rushing around Tesco's to collect 100 baguettes on a match day morning with our youngest Dempsey, who was probably only about 2 at the time, 2 or 3. Just his face poking out with all these baguettes sort of squashed up in the shopping trolley. So no, I can't regret it at all. It was an experience.
But yeah, not the business that you're running now. You're not you're no longer kind of selling sort of bacon in between 2 bits of baguette. So
No, I'm no longer flogging 9-inch sausages.
But as you said, I mean, I know that you write that in the book about it being, the kind of best business experience that you could have, because you really were sort of then thrown at the deep end, trying lots of different things, as every business owner does when we get started. That's the thing about, you could have gone and done an MBA first. And I think the reality is you've still got to then try and put that into practice. And, if I think, I can't remember whose quote it was that talks about, if you want to succeed, then fail faster, because we learn so much more from our, failures, if you like, if you want to call it that, than we often do, certainly learn from our successes. And you've certainly shared, you have shared the journey of your, in challenges and opportunities in different areas that you developed into. Because from moving then from your cafe experience, and then you've got the the study mediation service. What was it that really kind of went, this is where my passion is, this helping people, in terms of that sort of mediation that's now developed into sort of Mediate UK? Where did that really emerge from then?
Well, I was looking at another business to set up. I didn't have a clue what I was going to do. And then I heard on the radio that mediation was becoming compulsory to consider before you go to court. So I figured, well, if it's going to be compulsory, there must be some sort of business there. I'm smiling when you mentioned Surrey Mediation Service, because that seems so many years ago, and it's probably quite an apt time to say hello and thank someone. If anyone has read the book, they will know that one of the heroes of the book, in fact, one of the main heroes in the book, is my friend, mentor, and someone I really look up to, Ian. And it's his birthday today, so I have to say happy birthday to Ian.
Well, there we go. Cheers, Ian. Happy birthday.
But yeah, so it was just really an opportunity. I thought I could do it. I'd been mediating really between sort of neighbour disputes and people in the police. So I took a course. I became a mediator, and yeah, the rest, as they say, is history.
And if you want to know the real stories and all this stuff, definitely need to again kind of go and get a copy of this book, can't you? That's the thing.
That's the one, yes.
So, but Mediate UK has grown and done well, and then we've got the banner behind you. You've then gone on to launch Yaka, this connecting real people. So where did this come from, and what's this a passion and challenges that you wanted to overcome with this?
So one of my main goals in life, which I don't mind sharing, is I want to set up a charity that does a huge event for any young people, 12 to 25, who are struggling with their mental health, and get them all together, 10,000 of them in a room, and get some inspirational speakers on the stage, get people who they know and could look up to who perhaps have been through similar issues and get some, can't call, I don't know if we call them pop stars, but get some people on there and just have an amazing day, and do that each year. So it's a bit like when I used to look forward to my rugby tours once a year. They've got something to look forward to as well. And to sort of understand, that they're not alone, because there's 10,000 other people there with them as well. That's going to cost a lot of money to do. I needed to set up something that could help people, and that had the potential to scale. And so an app is one which has potential to scale. And I think, COVID taught us that we all need genuine human connection, and that's what Yaka would enable you to do.
So tell me a little bit more then about how the app works, just for, we'll get everybody to go off and download it and have a look for it after this, but how does it work in practice?
So we launched phase 1 in the summer this year. That helps people connect based on their location and hobbies. So wherever you are in the world, if you want to find someone who likes drinking pints of creme de menthe, you can find someone local to you who likes to do that. If phase 2 is being launched in January next year, and that's really based more on events and groups. So if you want to set up a group of people, to go dog walking with, or whatever you want to do, then you'll be able to do that as well. And you can just ping it out to anyone in the area. So you could be sat at home on your sofa, bit bored, watching Netflix, and suddenly you get a ping saying, do you want to come for, I don't know, paddle boarding? And you could say yes or no.
So it's that real, like you said, that way of using technology to connect in person, and not just be left with a chatting app that we can do with other sort of things. So and how is it going then? Are you pleased with the kind of progress of how it's developed so far?
Oh, I mean, it's like any startup. It's frustrating. It's slower than you want. It's more expensive than you hoped. But I'm very lucky. I've got an amazing team. My business coach, who helped transform Mediate UK, when he heard about the idea, wanted to come on board. So I've got access to his expertise. And one of the people who helped transform Mediate UK is my good friend Belinda, and her younger sister Danielle I've poached her for Mediate UK, and she is fantastic as well. So I've got an amazing team, and we're just gonna go for it and see what happens. I don't want to be I didn't want to be looking back in 10 years. I didn't really want to be starting a tech startup at almost 50, because I'm probably a little bit too old for that. But I didn't want to be looking back in 10 years saying, I wish I had done that. Or even worse, seeing that someone else has launched it and they're doing rather well. So yeah, you have to go with these things.
Yeah, because I think there's a little thing about sort of Deliveroo as well that was that kind of sounds reminiscent of that, about an idea that you had many years ago for something. Yeah. So I suppose if you're looking at where you've come in terms of business growth, and your learning, your works that you've done on yourself, your pillars of support that you've got in, amongst your family, your friends, your relationships, and you talk a lot in this, your section talking about your business, and then on to help other people in the last section of the book about business growth, about the work that you do with a coach. You've talked about Action Coach in particular that you've worked with. How pivotal is that those relationships, and being able to kind of help guide you through your business trajectory now?
Well, coaching's played a huge part. That's been transformational for the business. But really what it's done is it's coached me as well to be a better leader, if you like. And then I've just let the brilliant people I'm surrounded by just get on and do it. And that's been the key. So I mentioned in the book, I've mentioned Ian and Belinda, there's Jess, Ricky, there's a whole team at Mediate UK. The business runs better the less I have to do with it. And it's just really getting the right people in the right place. And yeah, I've got some fantastic people.
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, it's a testament to your growth then as a person and a business leader, to be able to do that, because that is a challenge, you know, for lots of people to kind of get out of their own way, and like you say, be able to just kind of help, you know, help others who do the job that they're really good at, you know. So so well done, being able to kind of take that, take the learning from previous stuff and kind of and put that into place. So you share some other tips in your book, certainly for sort of budding entrepreneurs, you know, that are looking at, you know, kind of coming into to learning from, you know, your experiences, and then look at what they can do to put into action themselves for to kind of run their own business. And one thing I was intrigued by is that you had a list of how you could prioritize your time. And we've got from 1 down to 7. We're starting with prioritising ourselves, our partner, children, wider family, staff, friends, and last is clients. And I wondered, for someone who is trying to then grow and develop a business, why would you put your clients last? Because that seems almost kind of counterintuitive to a lot of the thinking that would be out there about, yep, the client's always right, and you put them first.
Yeah, it was I mean, clients are important. You're going to need them in any business. But it was only when actually I started focusing on all the other areas that's when we started winning awards for client services and customer services, and we won, you know, a national award for Mediate UK, beating the likes of Octopus Energy and HSBC for client service, which for a little business like us was huge. But it was by prioritizing yourself. You've got to be okay yourself, focusing on your relationship, your children, your family, your friends, and your team. If you get all of those in place and working well, that's going to filter down into how you treat your clients. And one thing I love, it puts a smile on my face every day, is the culture within Mediate UK, because, you know, the clients can sense that it does filter down, and it is just an amazing working environment where family always will come first as well. No one would ever need to say, no one would ever be at work if their child was sick, or, you know, if they needed to watch them at a school play or production, that they would be watching that production. They wouldn't be at work.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, I think that, you know, having, you know, said, been in many jobs in the past where that would not be the case, you know, to create that environment within your business, absolutely, then people are, you know, people give back. As you talked before, you put things that you put out into the universe comes back to you. So if you give, you know, you give that focus to them, like you say, they're going to be far more you know, great employees, and actually then help your clients ultimately. So now I understand why you put the clients to the bottom of the list. Thank you. So this, I want to my last question. So if anybody in the audience has got a question, by all means, you know, put it in the chat and we'll get around to you. And then we're going to get you to read something after this. So now that you are a published author, here we are. Congratulations. I hear that you're hoping to do some speaking events, and you know, get out there on the stage, start talking about what's you know, what you've got, particularly in this, because you've got this wonderful book, so you have to absolutely go out and speak about it. How's that going? What have you got coming up?
Yeah, I just did a course with someone called Richard McCann, and it was a fantastic. It was called the Influencers Retreat, Influencer Storytelling Retreat, and yeah, it was an amazing weekend spent with some fantastic people, where gave me the sort of confidence to share the story. So I'm looking at helping people do their own goal setting exercises. That's a big part of what helped me in the book, and sort of manifesting those goals and taking action. So yeah, I'm just going to give it a go. I never thought I would be a public speaker. You don't need to adjust your laptops or phones. This is my natural voice, so I wouldn't normally have the confidence to stand up in front of a lot of people and use this voice. I went to something called a UPW, Tony Robbins event, and there was a speaker there called Nick Santanastaso, and he was born with no legs and one arm. And I thought, well, you know, if he can get up on stage and talk to 10,000 people, I can probably get over myself and talk to, you know, a few hundred people, maybe. So I'm doing an event in Lightwater on the 13th of January. It's a goal setting exercise. It's going to be free for people to come along to, and there'll be some free Prosecco and pizza there as well. And you get to write down your goals for life.
Sounds perfect. So, and we're going to, I'm going to put a little link up shortly just to your website as well. So if we want people to kind of come along and can they find out details about, you know, all of that and buy the book and stuff from your website?
Yeah, it'll be on the website. It'll be on all our socials as well. So yeah.
Excellent. So I've got a couple of questions that have come up. So Ian's asked, is it planned to get the book on Audible soon? Because he was with his son last night. He won't read it, but he'd listen to it.
Yes, we have had I mentioned about my voice. I did a test run with the book, and I don't think my voice was great for it. So yeah, we got a professional voiceover artist to read the book. Last night, it only took 4 hours. Last night I uploaded the files to Audible, and Amazon take about 10 days. So in the new year, it will be available to download on Audible and all the other places where you can download as well.
That's good. Yeah, I know that it is a challenge, I think, for many writers. Some have got great voices for audio, and others not. I mean, my husband writes crime fiction books, and he first recorded one of his, and I sat and listened to it, and I went, no, sorry, Sinclair, but no. So hiring a professional can make the difference too. So well done on that. Another question is, how have your family and friends responded to the book so far?
Yeah, the response so far, I think I mentioned, has just been mind-blowing. It's been fantastic. I'm absolutely in shock and touched at the amount outpouring of kindness and love I've received. So I'm just very, very grateful for that.
So here's a question. Can't wait to read it, says Danielle, but not a book related question, but I hear there may be some puppies nearby. Can we see the puppies?
So our dog Piggy's just had puppies. I think they're about 3 weeks old. And yes, we don't get much work done because we keep having to have puppy breaks to stroke them. So I can hear some noise in the background, I'm sure. Yeah, hold on. We might have some puppies just being delivered.
All right. Here's a first for us for a book launch. Oh my goodness, look at them. They're so cute.
This is Sheldon and Missy, and they are 3-week-old Pomeranians.
Oh, they're adorable.
This is my new way of dealing with stress.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
There we go. Right. I will hand these back. Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I remember there was actually a bit of research done on people who were really depressed, and they created this sort of puppy party for people just to sit, and they just had pups coming and running all over the top of them, and they measured how happy they were. And the thing was that happiness actually lasted, that feeling of joy lasted way beyond anything that they'd ever had in terms of taking Prozac or any other medication. So I think that's it. I think that we should just be, prescribing puppies for everybody.
Absolutely. That'll be our new business idea.
That's it. There we go. You've heard it here first, folks. Another couple of questions. What are your goals for 2024? And is there another book planned?
So 2024 is all going to be about Yaka, the relaunch of Yaka, and trying to get that out there into as many sort of event and group organisers' hands as possible. And I'm really excited about that. I'm turning 50 in April. I know many people think surely he turned 50 many years ago, but no, it is next year. and one of my goals was to go to Sandals with Amber, so we're going to be doing that around my birthday in the Caribbean with lots of food and drink, so that'll be exciting. And there'll be another book. Goodness, it depends on Yaka. If Yaka does well, then the next title will be Even Greater Expectations, and it will share the journey and the ups and downs, I'm sure, of that.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing that. And there is another question here about: are you planning to have the book in bookstores, or will it only be sold on the website? So
it's quite difficult to get into bookstores. You can get into little independent ones, but there don't seem to be as many of them now. So no, for the moment, it will be on online and on Audible in the new year, and Kindle as well. So
that's it's the kind of next phase, but once you're out there doing speaking and people can come and see you and the whole thing just really takes off, then you may have the bigger bookstores actually wanting to kind of clamber you and have you inside there as well. And if you're taking a pup, what could they that would definitely be an attraction. So
absolutely, yeah.
So that's all our questions. I could say thank you. Now, I know that you're going to read us a little section of your book, I believe. So
thank you. Yes, I wasn't sure which part to do. I didn't want to give too much away. A lot of people, despite going sort of through the goal setting and tips and all of that, the bit that most people talk to me about is the what we call the tooth mug incident. But I'm not going to read that out. I'm going to let people discover that or endure that story for themselves in the book. So what I did want to do is probably the main reason why I'm here and doing all of this is because of my wife Amber. So I thought I would just share the part from the book where I meet her, if that's okay with you.
That would be lovely.
So Match.com were doing an offer whereby if you signed up for 6 months, you got 6 months free. And I went for it. A whole year of dating was ahead of me, and I was convinced I would find someone willing to snog me at least. Neither of the first 2 dates I went on were a particular success. One used photos from 8 years prior, and while I tried to make it work, we just didn't connect. The second date was with someone I knew from my teenage years at the rugby club. She reminded me of many stories of my antics as a teenager, none of which I could really remember. And she looked particularly unimpressed when the waiter brought over the card machine and I pretended it was a mobile phone, holding it up to my ear. Hello? There's no one here, mate. I don't think the waiter was particularly impressed either. January rolled into February, and I received a message from someone called Amber from Woking. Amber hadn't come up on my radar before, as I hadn't set my search area that wide, but I was late to discover Amber had set her search radius to national, as she could only afford to subscribe for 1 month, and she needed to find her man. We exchanged messages for a little while and then phone numbers, and finally arranged to meet up just after Valentine's Day. I was in a positive mindset as I drove to Woking for our first date. I'd been to a friend's funeral from the rugby club that week. Kelly was a lovely person, both inside and out, and we had been romantically involved for a little while. She was sent home from her job as a teacher with a splitting headache, and just hours later was rushed to hospital where she died from a brain hemorrhage. While her funeral was not exactly an event to put anyone in a good mood, her sudden death showed the importance of treating each day as though it could be your last. I was determined that week to do just that. I arrived in Woking and knocked on the door. My heart immediately sank. I must have been catfished. The lady who answered the door was at least 10 years older than what I was expecting, and her hair was styled like a badly assembled bird's nest. What was I going to do? Fortunately, matters were quickly resolved, and we both established that I was at the incorrect address. I drove round the corner, parked up in the visitor's bay, and knocked on the door. Amber answered the door, and, well, my heart sunk again. Standing in front of me, smiling from ear to ear, was the most beautiful woman I had ever laid eyes on. This was going to be a complete disaster. Amber was far too good looking for me. I'd be faced with another Annie, or even worse, Julia. Amber invited me in and explained her babysitter was running late. That's fine, I said. We could order a Chinese. Amber seemed relieved at this suggestion, and it helped calm our nerves. The babysitter did arrive, and we went to a local restaurant. We chatted away all evening. It was relaxed and comfortable, and I was determined just to enjoy my evening with this woman who I would never have had the confidence to approach in normal circumstances. Amber's conversation was kind and entertaining, and I thought it especially charitable of her to invite me in for a coffee when I dropped her back to her house. I mean, she clearly isn't interested in me, but how nice that she's done that. We chatted over the coffee, and when I got up to leave, I believed wholeheartedly I would never see her again and wanted the evening to end on a high before I said or did something to fuck it all up. I had enjoyed a fantastic evening with a gorgeous lady, and I just wanted to count my blessings. I went to give Amber a pet goodbye on the cheek, and we ended up having a full-on kiss. I pulled her closer to me, and yes, she was definitely kissing me back. I didn't think she had drunk that much. The thought flashed through my mind that I may be on some sort of American-style wind-up prank show. But no, I was actually kissing the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my life, and she was definitely kissing me back. I was euphoric. On my way home, Amber sent me a text message to say how much she'd enjoyed the evening. I was on such a high, I had to pull over on the hard shoulder of the A3 just to compose myself. I replied, saying I'd enjoyed a wonderful evening and hoped to see her again soon. All my barriers and anxiety came crashing down. If I was going to be hurt by someone, fuck it. Let that someone be Amber, because I would sacrifice anything to see that beautiful smile again. That weekend, I arranged to send Amber some flowers, which wouldn't arrive until the Monday. On the Saturday, I got a message. Hey, my sister and I are eating Haribo and having a competition to see how many we can fit into our mouths. Want to come over and join in? Absolutely. I joined in and I lost. Amber and I moved in together 8 months later, got engaged 12 months later, and married 2 years later at a wonderful venue in the Cotswolds that we'd hired for the weekend. We were surrounded by all our friends and family, our children, and our dog Stormy was our ring bearer. For me, it was the perfect weekend, marrying the perfect woman. There we go. That's probably safer than me toothbrush story.
Yeah, I think that was a better one than reading the toothbrush story. I've read the toothbrush story. I'm glad that you read that one. So many messages in there just saying that was awesome, sweetest story, and people saying that they would actually listen to you on Audible. So yeah. So maybe you're.
There we go. Maybe next time.
And I think there's one question here I think that just kind of just sums it up, just to kind of finish us off. Now that you're an author, do you think it will change you?
Oh goodness. I pinch myself that I am doing this. I am I'm living an amazing life at the moment because of the changes that I made, not because of anything else. I am very much the same person, and I have a group of amazing friends, family, and support, and I am just touched to bits that these wonderful people have joined us today to support this online book launch. I was very nervous beforehand. I feel very relaxed now because you're all here and have been so kind. So thank you.
Well, I would say thank you so much to everybody for coming and joining us. If you want to unmute yourselves and give them a little cheer. I know the noise is going to be a bit much, so I'm going to stop the recording of that first.